My name is Emily Carter. I'm 32 years old and I build systems for a living. Software engineer, logical, structured. I believe every problem has a root cause and every failure leaves a trace. What happened that night wasn't impulsive. It was a correction. To understand why, you need to understand my relationship with Daniel Whitmore. For 2 years, I thought we were building something solid. Daniel works in public relations, image crafting, narrative shaping, reputation management. He once told me perception is more important than reality. I laughed. I should have listened more carefully. In the beginning, we felt balanced. I was the engine, he was the polish. I valued efficiency, he valued elegance. We split our rent, split our dinners, split responsibilities. I wasn't his sugar mama, and he wasn't my dependent. That's the story I told myself. The complication was his friends. 4 of them. Always impeccably dressed. Always talking about ski trips in Aspen and private tastings in Napa. They treated brunch like a competitive sport. There was Catherine, the leader, married to a man who was always traveling for business. There was Maya, who mentioned her trust fund the way most people mention their hobbies. And Olivia, who seemed to reinvent her career every 6 months without ever actually working. They tolerated me. The quiet tech girl, the one who wore a clean Apple Watch instead of Cartier and drove a reliable sedan instead of something German and loud. I was an accessory in Daniel's world, something practical he hadn't upgraded yet. The turning point came with Catherine's birthday dinner. One of those restaurants where the menu has no prices and the water is imported from somewhere with vowels I can't pronounce. Daniel had been talking about it for weeks. Emily, he said 3 days before, sitting across from me at our kitchen table, fingers laced together like he was about to negotiate a merger. This dinner is important. I kept typing on my laptop. Important how? All the husbands and boyfriends always take care of these things. It's expected. I stopped typing. You want me to cover it? He smiled, too quickly. Just this once, as a birthday gift for Catherine. It would really show them we're serious. I knew it was a test. I'm not naive. But I also believed relationships sometimes require strategic investments. Fine, I said. I'll handle it. The relief in his eyes should have scared me. It didn't. Saturday night arrived. They were already 2 bottles of champagne in when we walked in. Laughter too loud. Compliments too sharp. Eyes scanning my outfit like it was a resume. Halfway through reading the menu, Daniel leaned close. His smile was tight, his whisper colder than the champagne. Don't embarrass me tonight. Don't talk about your coding projects. Just smile. And when the bill comes, pay it. Can you do that? Something inside me didn't break. It aligned. All the small comments over the past year replayed at once. You're not really into fashion, are you? Maybe don't mention salary stuff. It sounds tacky. You could try being more impressive. I looked at him, and I smiled. Of course, I said softly. I'll take care of it. Dinner unfolded exactly as expected. They ordered like they were spending Monopoly money. Lobster, prime rib, the most expensive Bordeaux on the list. Another bottle, and another. They weren't eating. They were scoring points. Halfway through the main course, I excused myself. I didn't go to the restroom. I found our waiter, a man in his 40s with observant eyes. There's been a change of plans, I said, slipping a folded bill into his hand. I need 2 separate checks. His eyebrow lifted slightly. One for me and Daniel, I continued. Charge mine immediately. Add a generous tip. And the other? For the rest of the table. He studied my face, then nodded once. When I returned, Daniel squeezed my knee under the table. Approval. I almost laughed. The moment came quietly. The waiter placed a slim folder in front of me. My card, receipt, done. Then he placed a thick one at the center of the table. Catherine reached first. Her smile froze. Maya leaned in. Olivia stopped mid-sentence. The silence spread. Daniel blinked, looked at my paid receipt, looked at the other folder, then at me. Confusion. Then panic. Then fury. There must be a mistake, Catherine whispered. I took a slow sip of water. Daniel asked me to do 2 things tonight, I said calmly. Smile and pay the bill. I held up my receipt. I did. I stood, placed my napkin beside my plate, and looked directly at Daniel. You should probably figure that out, I said, nodding toward the bill. Your share of the lobster is on there. For the first time in 2 years, he had no script, no spin, no perception control, just reality. And I walked out into the cool night air, leaving behind the loudest silence I've ever heard. The system had revealed its flaw, and I had just executed the patch. It has been 1 week since the night of the separate bills. 1 week of silence on my end, and absolute chaos on his. I didn't go home that night. I had anticipated the explosion. Daniel pacing the living room, rehearsing arguments, framing himself as the victim. So earlier that afternoon, before the dinner, I packed a small overnight bag and booked a hotel room downtown. When I left the restaurant, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt clear. I turned my phone off and slept for 8 uninterrupted hours. The best sleep I'd had in years. When I turned it back on the next morning, it vibrated so violently I almost laughed. Missed calls 27. Unread messages 63. The first ones were from Daniel. How could you do that to me? You humiliated me. Call me right now. Emily, this is cruel. They think I'm a joke now. You promised. The progression was fascinating. Rage, victimhood, threat. Then came the messages from his friends, numbers I didn't even recognize. Catherine, I have never been so embarrassed in my life. You owe me for my birthday dinner. Maya, my father's lawyers will be contacting you. What you did was fraud. Fraud. For paying my own bill. I didn't respond to a single message. Instead, I drafted an email. Subject, your belongings. Daniel, after the events of last night, our relationship is over. You have 5 days to arrange a time to collect your belongings from my apartment. Please let me know when you plan to do so. I will not be present. If your items are not removed by Sunday at 5 p.m., they will be professionally packed and placed into storage in your name. The first month will be covered. Emily, no signature of affection, no apology, no emotion. Just logistics. Because that's what this was now, a system shutdown. His reply came within minutes. Long, rambling, contradictory. You're overreacting. It was just one dinner. I don't have anywhere to go. You're throwing me out over a misunderstanding. You know I can't afford to move right now. That last line almost made me smile. For months, I had been quietly tracking our shared expenses, not out of paranoia, out of pattern recognition. Daniel earned a respectable salary in PR, but his lifestyle, that was funded by perception and my credit card. Forgotten wallets. Can you cover this? I'll send you my half. Weekend trips I paid for. Designer shoes charged to my account because his card was declined temporarily. I opened my laptop and attached a spreadsheet. 12 months of data. Every expense categorized. Every reimbursement missed. Every small favor added up. Total, $19,842.17. Outside of rent and utilities. My reply was short. Subject, your belongings. Daniel, based on the attached summary, you have effectively saved nearly $20,000 over the past year due to my covering your personal expenses. You have more than sufficient funds to secure alternative housing. Please confirm your move-out time. Emily. The silence that followed was even louder than the restaurant. Data is difficult to argue with, especially when it's color-coded. The real fallout, however, wasn't between Daniel and me. It was between Daniel and his precious circle. Through a mutual acquaintance, a colleague of his, I learned the dinner bill had totaled just over $3,200. Without me covering it, the four of them had to split it. Over $800 each. For people who curated wealth rather than possessed it, that was catastrophic. Apparently, the argument started immediately. Catherine insisted that since it was her birthday, she shouldn't have to pay equally. Maya claimed she only had one glass of the expensive wine. Olivia argued she barely touched the lobster. The shouting escalated. Other diners stared. And eventually, Catherine had to call her husband, the one always traveling, to pay the bill over the phone. Daniel, I'm told, sat there pale and silent while the group imploded. The queen bee had lost her composure. And he had lost his audience. By Monday, the social media photos from that night were gone. By Wednesday, Daniel wasn't included in the group chat anymore. By Friday, Catherine had publicly blamed him for misrepresenting his girlfriend. He tried calling me again that evening. I let it ring. He left a voicemail this time. His voice was different. Not angry. Smaller. Emily, they're saying you planned this, that you did it to punish me. Tell me that's not true. I deleted the message. Because the truth was simpler than that. I didn't punish him. I corrected the imbalance. Saturday came. He chose 11 a.m. to move out. As promised, I wasn't there. Instead, I asked my friend Ben, 6'3", former college linebacker, soft-spoken but physically intimidating, to supervise. Ben called me later that afternoon. They packed everything, he said. His mother was there. I blinked. His mother? Yeah, she kept muttering about how you wasted Daniel's best years. I almost laughed out loud. Did they take anything that wasn't his? Nope, I made sure. There was a pause. You okay? Ben asked. I looked around my apartment. Quieter, lighter. Yeah, I said honestly. I think I am. After they left, I went home. His cologne no longer lingered. The extra shoes by the door were gone. The second toothbrush had disappeared. It didn't feel empty. It felt optimized. By the end of the week, Daniel had moved back in with his parents, 32 years old. public relations specialist, living in his childhood bedroom. The irony was almost poetic. He had once told me, half joking, "You're too logical sometimes, Emily. Life isn't just spreadsheets." Maybe not, but relationships have balance sheets. And ours had been running in the red for a long time. He thought I was a wallet, a quiet, dependable resource. He forgot something important. I don't just build systems. I debug them. And when I find corrupted code, I remove it. It turns out the dinner wasn't the end. It was the trigger. 3 weeks after Daniel moved out, I received a certified letter. Return address, a law firm downtown. For a split second, I wondered if Maya's father's lawyers had actually materialized. They hadn't. The letter was from an attorney representing Catherine's husband, the one who was always traveling. Apparently, he hadn't been traveling for business. He'd been quietly preparing for divorce, documenting spending patterns, tracking credit card charges, building a case. And the $3,200 birthday dinner, charged to a card he monitored, had been the final piece he needed. The letter was polite, measured. He was requesting a factual statement regarding the events of that evening. Specifically, whether Catherine and her friends had ordered extravagantly, whether there had been an expectation that someone else would pay, whether Daniel had communicated that expectation in advance. I sat at my kitchen table reading it twice. This wasn't revenge. This was documentation. I contacted my own attorney, because if I've learned anything, it's that precision matters. We drafted a short, factual statement. No emotion, no adjectives, just data. Daniel requested I cover the entire table days before the dinner. He communicated that this was expected behavior among the group. The guests ordered multiple high-priced items and premium wine. I paid only my portion and Daniel's portion. The remaining bill exceeded $3,000. Signed. Notarized. Sent. 2 weeks later, through the same mutual acquaintance, I learned my statement had become a formal exhibit in the divorce proceedings. Catherine had expected a generous settlement. She did not receive one. Her husband's legal team used the dinner as proof of reckless marital spending and financial irresponsibility. The queen bee's throne had started to crack. Then there was Maya. Her threats about lawyers had lingered in my mind. So I did what I always do when faced with noise. I researched. Public court records are surprisingly accessible if you know where to look. Her father's company had indeed been named in a significant civil lawsuit months earlier. Allegations of financial mismanagement. Assets under scrutiny. The trust fund personality trait suddenly looked fragile. I didn't contact Maya. I didn't threaten her. I didn't post anything publicly. Instead, I sent an anonymous tip to a local financial gossip columnist. The tip was simple. Children of elite families spending lavishly at high-end restaurants while their family companies face lawsuits might make an interesting piece. Names included, restaurant included, nothing defamatory, everything factual. A week later, a short article appeared online. It didn't accuse, it implied. It questioned optics. And in a city where perception is currency, that was enough. The article spread quickly. Within days, the lawsuit against her father's company was being discussed in broader circles. Maya stopped posting champagne brunch photos. Then she stopped posting altogether. Daniel, meanwhile, tried to salvage his reputation. He told mutual friends I had been controlling, that I monitored his spending obsessively, that I weaponized finances. The irony was staggering. But credibility is a delicate ecosystem, and his had already collapsed. Catherine blamed him for misrepresenting the situation. Maya blamed him for bringing instability. Olivia simply drifted away, attaching herself to a new social circle. Daniel had built his world on perception, but perception without substance is unstable. It only takes one data point to shatter it. The final logistical loose end involved the apartment we had once planned to rent together. Months earlier, we had placed a significant security deposit from a joint account. Daniel began texting again. "I need my half of the deposit." "You can't just keep it." "That money is mine too." I reviewed the joint account records. Over 90% of the deposits into that account had come from my salary, including the full amount used for the security deposit. I contacted the management company. I explained that we were no longer together and I was withdrawing my application. I provided bank statements, deposit history, the spreadsheet showing nearly $20,000 in subsidized expenses. I framed it professionally. Given the financial imbalance and the dissolution of the relationship, refunding the deposit to the primary contributor would be the most equitable solution. 2 weeks later, a check arrived in my mailbox for the full amount. I scanned it, emailed Daniel a copy along with the official letter. Subject, deposit resolution. Daniel, the management company has refunded the deposit in full based on contribution records. Given the documented financial support I provided over the past year, I consider this matter settled. I wish you well. Emily. He called immediately. I didn't answer. He left no voicemail this time, because there was nothing left to argue. A month after the dinner, the consequences were no longer emotional. They were structural. Catherine's divorce proceedings intensified. Maya's family finances were under public pressure. Olivia disappeared from the social scene. Daniel was living with his parents, commuting an extra 40 minutes to work. And me? My apartment felt like mine again. Not curated for anyone else's approval. Not decorated to impress Daniel's friends. Just clean lines, functional furniture, quiet. One evening, I sat on my couch with a glass of wine, inexpensive because I actually like it, and considered something unexpected. I didn't feel vindictive. I felt balanced. What happened wasn't a scheme. It was an exposure. Daniel thought I was an accessory, a background character in his social narrative. He forgot that I design systems. And when a system exploits a resource, I don't argue with it. I restructure it. The dinner was the catalyst. But the real shift? It was internal. For the first time in 2 years, I wasn't trying to earn my place in someone else's story. I was writing my own. 6 months have passed since the night of the separate bills. It's strange how a single decision, one calm, deliberate correction, can ripple through so many lives, mine included. The silence on my end has been absolute. No late-night curiosity texts, no checking social media, no mutual friend reconnaissance. I didn't need to monitor the aftermath, because my life finally required my full attention. 3 months after Daniel moved out, I received a promotion at work. Senior systems architect. More responsibility, more pay, more autonomy. My director told me, "You have a way of seeing structural weaknesses before they become disasters." I smiled at the irony. I moved into a new apartment, smaller than the one Daniel and I had shared, but brighter. Every piece of furniture in it serves a purpose. No decorative clutter to impress hypothetical guests. No fragile glassware that exists purely for aesthetic validation. Just clean lines. Plants I actually water. Books I actually read. It is quiet. And it is mine. But the echoes of that dinner continued. Through the same network of acquaintances that once carried Daniel's gossip, updates trickled in. Catherine's divorce was finalized. As predicted, my factual statement played a role. Her husband's attorneys demonstrated a pattern of reckless spending, the birthday dinner becoming symbolic of a larger problem. Her settlement was significantly smaller than she expected. The luxury SUV, sold. The large suburban house, gone. She now lives in a modest downtown apartment. The queen bee lost her hive. Maya's situation deteriorated more quietly. The lawsuit against her father's company ended in a costly settlement. They weren't ruined, but they were diminished. Trust funds are far less glamorous when they're tied up in legal scrutiny. Maya, I'm told, has a job now. An actual job. Not a consulting project. Not a vague board position. 9 to 5, commuter train, budgeted lunches. It's amazing what reality does to a curated identity. Olivia? She drifted. Her social climbing ambitions had been tethered to Catherine and Maya. When their platforms crumbled, so did hers. She resurfaced briefly in another friend group's vacation photos, then faded again. Some people don't fall dramatically. They simply disappear when the spotlight moves. And Daniel, his story is the most complete. After months at his parents' house, he found a new position at a smaller PR firm. Lower salary, less prestige, fewer high-profile clients. His online presence, once carefully manicured, has become muted. Fewer curated photos, more neutral updates, less bravado. I heard from someone at his former office that the dinner incident became something of a cautionary tale. Not because of me, but because of him. He built narratives for a living, but he forgot the difference between narrative and truth. The most unexpected update came from the waiter. About a month ago, I stopped by a restaurant near my office for lunch. He recognized me instantly. There was a flicker of amusement in his eyes. "You're the split check woman," he said quietly. I laughed. "I suppose I am." He leaned in slightly. "You should know, that night. It's legend at my old place. They argued for almost an hour after you left." I wasn't surprised, but then he added something else. "A few weeks ago, your ex came in here, on a date." I kept my expression neutral. "And?" He looked different, quieter, less polished. The waiter smiled faintly. "They split the bill. That was it. No drama, no grand confrontation, no apology, just a split check." And somehow that detail mattered more than everything else. I don't take pleasure in Daniel struggling. I don't wake up feeling triumphant. What I feel is alignment. For 2 years, I adjusted myself to fit into someone else's perception of success. I tried to prove I belonged at tables where I was only invited for what I could provide. I ignored subtle dismissals because I believed partnership required flexibility. It does, but not self-erasure. Daniel wanted me to be a wallet, a silent accessory, a background contributor to his image. But systems built on exploitation eventually fail. Illusions collapse under financial reality. And when they do, the bill arrives. 6 months ago, I walked out of a restaurant and into clarity. Not revenge, not cruelty, correction. My life now is simple, stable, intentional, grounded in truth rather than perception. I build systems for a living, but the most important system I rebuilt this year